Hello, YouTube, and welcome to the Blackrock and Mohawk Railroad. My name is Brent, and I live here in Knoxville, Tennessee. This is just some background on the railroad and me. I grew up in Toledo, Ohio in the 60s and 70s and early 80s. I had a Lionel set when I was a kid on a 4x8 table with steam engines. Loved it, got me into the hobby. Um, Growing up, my favorite railroad was the Detroit, Toledo, and Ironton, the DT&I. I love and still do to this day the orange locomotives. My other favorite was the New York Central. Um, Fast forward a little bit in the mid 80s, we bought a house, and the garage, in the attic of the garage, we walked up there and there was a table with track on it, HO. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. So it didn't have any other, rolling stock or anything like that. But I was just like, okay, I'm in. So my best friend forever, Mark, came over to the house, and I went up and showed him this layout. And for as long as we knew each other, we knew neither one of us knew the other one liked model railroads. But it was the 70s, it was sex, drugs, and rock and roll. So, but anyway, him and I started working on this, and that's really the first version of the B&M for Brent and Mark. I had done an engine and a car with my initials, which are B&M also, but I didn't have a name for it. And when I showed them to him, I said, "Man, let's just make this like Brent and Mark," you know. And so off we went, and it was awesome. Um, so after a while, though, the place that I worked was going to go under. And after visiting the Smoky Mountains a couple of years before this, really loved the area, and I happened to find a job in Etowah, Tennessee, which is an hour south of Knoxville. And we moved down to Tennessee, and Mark and I still kept in constant contact all the time. Um, but anyway, Etowah is this quaint little town. It was built by the L&N Railroad. There wasn't even a town there. They built the town. They put this beautiful depot there. It's still there today. You can go see it. It's awesome. They used to have a huge yard. I mean, tons of track, facilities of all kinds to fix stuff, and the round table and everything. It was incredible. So Etowah is also 1 hour away from Chattanooga, where the Tennessee Valley Railroad Association is. And if you've never been there, you really need to go see this place. It's awesome. I'll probably talk about that in another video. Um, but it was a great time. But things happen in life, as you know, and I ended up traveling a lot. I mean, a lot. I moved around a lot. Racked up 2 million miles in travel. So it was a lot. So I had no time for a hobby. Fast forward, um, I'd always kept the trains and the cars that I had. I moved them around from place to place. I had an L-shaped little layout that I tried to work on, but it never got more than plywood and track on it, and even that I didn't really use it that much. So after all of that, now I'm back in Knoxville, and um, retired in my mid 60s. And I'm actually one of those guys that say, when I get retired, I want to build this layout. Well, I am going to build it for a couple of reasons. The main one is that my friend Mark, who, uh, like I said, been in contact with it all the time, passed away a few months ago. And the B&M will live again. And I want to do this as a legacy to Mark, because he was an awesome, awesome individual, even though we were 400 miles apart. So why am I doing a YouTube channel? Well, being retired, getting back into the hobby, um, I found out there's a lot of people that are doing that. And so I just want to help them with some of the mistakes that I made, because it's a lot. Um, I've been working on this for a few months, and it's a hobby. It's supposed to be fun. And when I was putting track down, running some trains just to see how I liked the layout of it, I got into DCC, got some trains with sound in them, and I'm totally hooked now. So I watched a lot of YouTube videos and how to do things on the hobby, and some seem to be just an endless stream of spending money, which when you're retired you don't have. Others are so technical that they drone on and on and on. You just it's like it doesn't need to be a science. This is just for fun. It's a hobby. Um, so there's some fun guys out there. There's some great channels out there, but not everything you see on there works out like they think it's going to be. So I'm just going to help other people getting back in the hobby, especially retirees, trying to get back in, and for new people to the hobby. Because basically, I've been out of the hobby for 30 years, so coming back into this was like a brand new thing. Everything's changed, it seemed like, especially the cost. So I want it to be fun and just show some tricks where you make it easier for people to not have to crawl around underneath the layout to do wiring and all that stuff. So the Blackhawk and Mohawk is based in the late 60s, early 70s. Um, in my world, this started with them hauling coal from West Virginia down from Blackrock, which is a completely imaginary name. There is no Blackrock anywhere. Um, but I like the name. When I lived in Portland for a short time, and they had a coffee shop there called Blackrock they had a great coffee, and I loved their logo. So I thought Blackrock would be awesome because coal. And Mohawk, there is a real Mohawk, Tennessee, and it's not far from Knoxville. I don't think it was ever a railroad town. It's very small. Um, but it was just a great name because back in the day, Mark and I were into like punk rock, new wave rock, and a Mohawk. Hey, it totally fit. So that's where the name comes from. My father, actually worked in the coal mines. And he was born in West Virginia, and so that was just like a no-brainer for me. So this is the town that I built, is this Mohawk, Tennessee, that never existed, but it does in my mind. Um, it's an imaginary world, right? So the DT and I, who had these awesome connections, we have the connections, was their logo on the trains. And they really truly did. I've done a lot of research on this, and I actually have a business card from a guy in DT&I who was in Portland, Oregon. And in Portland, Oregon, my uh, father-in-law worked for the Burlington Railroad. So there's a good chance that he met this guy at some point. It just shows how the connections are so important. So the B&M was kind of like the DT&I of the South. They had a lot of connections. Southern Railroad, the L&N, Clinchfield, so on and so forth. So they bought the Blackrock and Mohawk. So you'll see DT&I trains on there along with Blackrock and Southern and a few others, to make it interesting. But this whole thing has got to be fun. The only reason I'm doing a YouTube channel is just try to help people not make the mistakes that I make, all the time. I don't have my knees are bad. I don't have very good dexterity in my fingers. I could never do an N scale layout. That's just way too small. HO is small enough, and some of the things that I've had to do already is just like really hard for me. But I'm doing it. You know, I just got to keep going. Um, you know, I said my father worked in the coal mines of Tennessee. He was injured in a collapse there. He moved to Toledo. Um, so there's a lot of stories that will be told throughout the whole layout. And um, I still have the trains, the old DC trains, and I'm going to run those too, along with the DCC ones. So um, the way I funded this is at the time that this, after Mark's passing, that I was looking um, in Facebook Marketplace, and I happened to find a couple of stashes of inventory that people never got to use or did use. There's one that, you know, was some used, but still had new stuff. And so I've got a store on eBay called B&M Trains and Collectibles where I sell stuff. And, you know, it was nice because I could take the things out of it, the stuff that I got, and keep it and sell the stuff to basically finance this whole journey. So, you know, you want to check it out on eBay, you can. B&M Trains. Um, we do pretty good on there. But, you know, I say that this is got to be fun. And I'm doing this video, and I didn't plan on doing it tonight. But, you know, sometimes things just don't work out. You watch videos on YouTube ad nauseum. And I've got a 1.5-inch foam on a piece of masonite on the framing, and I've got it on brackets that attach to the wall, so that I can actually just flip it up to do the wiring, which is awesome. And I did all the wiring to the track. Excuse me. And I'm putting in 7 switch machines on this, and the holes are all drilled, and I put the little stickers or Walters ones, and they give you a little sticker to stick there, you know. And then tonight I noticed that the foam isn't sticking to the masonite. And I had watched a video where a guy used liquid nails for projects and squirted it down and slapped the foam on there. Well, it doesn't work. Don't use that. I mean, it literally, the foam is just floating. So I just spent a bunch of time cutting the wires that I just put in so that I can take the foam off, put down new adhesives, and I'm not going to say what I used yet until I find out if it works, and try to line the foam back up to the table like it was. And I hope it worked, because all those holes that I drilled in for the switch machines, they may be off a little bit now. And now it's just like, oh my gosh. So I'm still having fun. I'm not going to let this deter me, but it is just one of those things that you just go, really? It looked like it was solid, you know? And then all of a sudden I start picking it up and I'm going, what the heck? And I can pick up the whole piece. So, number one, you can't trust everything you see on YouTube. Number two, stuff happens and you just got to deal with it. So I'm going to deal with it. So the next video will be about how I deal with it. But you know, man, it's got to be fun. It's got to be. So thanks for watching. I rambled pretty long here. But have a great time with your railroad. Hope you'll subscribe. Hope you give me the likes. You know, all those kind of things. But that's not what I'm in this for. Is if somebody can be helped by seeing what I do, that's all that matters, man. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.